Children, now let's learn about the layers of the atmosphere. The first layer of the atmosphere is troposphere, second layer is stratosphere, third is mesosphere, fourth is thermosphere, and the last layer is the exosphere. Now let us learn in detail about the first layer, that is troposphere. The lowermost layer of the atmosphere is troposphere, and the term troposphere literally means turnover. This layer extends from 8 kilometers over the poles and 18 kilometers over the equator. Children, see that 8 kilometers near the poles, 18 kilometers over the equator. Why is this difference? Because the equator is warmer, air gets heated up on the planet's surface, causes convection currents to flow from the equator to the poles. So now you understood, this implies that warmer the weather, thicker is the troposphere. There is another reason to be discussed why the troposphere is thick near the equator, children, because you know that the earth is not a complete sphere. It is elliptical in shape. So the radius from the center of the earth to the poles is less when compared to the radius towards the equator. So the gravitational pull of the earth towards the equator is less when compared to the gravitational pull towards the poles. 80% of the atmosphere is found in this layer, that is troposphere. It is very thick and it consists of most of the oxygen, which is very essential for all the living beings on the earth. Children, you already know what is air pressure. The pressure exerted by the air on the surface of the earth is called air pressure, or weight of air in simple words. Now closer to the earth, higher air pressure. Far away from the earth, less air pressure. So in this layer, air pressure is highest, and in this layer, air moves both vertically and horizontally. Children, the temperature in this layer, that is in the troposphere, decreases with increase in height above the mean sea level, roughly at a rate of 1 degrees Celsius for every 165 meters of the ascent. This is called lapse rate. And do you know the reason why, children? Why is the temperature decreasing as you are going higher and higher? The reason is the troposphere gases absorb very little of the incoming solar radiation. Instead, the ground absorbs this radiation and then heats the tropospheric air by condension and convection. Children, now I would like to pose you a question, that is, if you go into the Earth's crust, like, will the temperature increase or decrease? Yes, you're right, the temperature increases. But you know, the temperature increases by around 3 degrees Celsius per 100 meters you go down into the Earth's crust. Children, you may have a doubt that we can reach the center of the earth. No, it's not possible, because as you go deeper and deeper, it becomes too hotter and hotter. So we cannot reach the center of the earth. It is hot in the lower layers, ranging from 20 degrees Celsius to 15 degrees Celsius, except in the polar regions. And children, in this layer, it gets cold near the top, as low as minus 75 degrees Celsius. So water vapor gets condensed and form clouds. Thus troposphere is the home of clouds, lightning and other weather phenomena. Children, observe the diagram. You can see the tropopause, stratopause, mesopause and thermopause. What actually is a pause, children? Pause is nothing but the boundaries between the layers of the atmosphere are known as pauses, and the tropopause separates the troposphere and stratosphere. Let us see what are the special features of the pauses of the atmosphere. The answer to this question is maximum changes occur between the layers of the atmosphere at these pauses. You know what are the pauses, already we have discussed. The reason is because the particles from the lower layer and the upper layer mix in these regions, children. But there is no change in the temperature with increase in height in the pauses. So note this, there will be no change in the temperature with increasing height within the pauses. Children, now we are going to learn about the second layer, that is called the stratosphere, which is above the troposphere. This layer extends up to a height of about 50 kilometers from the mean sea level, children. So please observe the picture so that you can clearly understand that it extends from about 50 kilometers from the mean sea level. In this layer, children, air moves horizontally and almost free from all type of weather phenomenon, no clouds, of very much clear. Thus, jet planes fly in this layer. In this layer, the temperature increases with increase in altitude. But in troposphere, we have discussed the temperature decreases with increase in altitude. Now, why is the temperature is increasing in the stratosphere? The reason is that the direct heat source of the stratosphere is the sun. A layer of ozone molecules absorb the solar radiation which heats the stratosphere. That's the reason why the temperature is increasing in the stratosphere. The stratopause separates the stratosphere and the mesosphere, which you can very clearly see in the picture above, children. The lower part of the stratosphere has concentration of ozone, O3, which protects the earth from the harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun. Now let us discuss more about the UV rays, ultraviolet rays of the sun, and about the ozone layer in detail. Children, now let's know more about the UV rays, that is ultraviolet rays. The sunlight that reaches us is made up of three types of rays, children, that is UVA, UVB and UVC. The long wavelength rays are called UVA and the short wavelength rays are called UVB and UVC. And UVA and UVB are the rays that harm our skin, children. Please remember this. UVA and UVB are the rays that harm our skin. UVC rays do not penetrate from the ozone, so we need not worry about these rays. Children, however, we should be cautious about the UVA and UVB rays. The UVA rays penetrate deep into the dermis, which is the skin's thickest layer. Children, unprotected and prolonged exposure of these UVA rays leads to premature aging, wrinkling, loose skin and sunspots. Sometimes it can affect the DNA, which increases risk of skin cancer. Prevalent in all seasons and all time of the day. You must be very careful about these rays, children. Children, we have already discussed that the UVC rays do not penetrate from the ozone, so we need not worry about these rays. Moving on to UVB rays, if you are unprotected and get exposed to UVB rays, it is responsible for sunburns, redness and skin cancer. The UV rays, however, the intensity differs from the season, location and the time of the day. Now let's watch this video to know more about the advantages and disadvantages of the ultraviolet rays.
created using Powtoon.
Now let's know more about the ozone layer and ozone depletion. The ozone gas is made up of three molecules of oxygen, O3, occurs naturally throughout the atmosphere, but its maximum concentration, about 90%, is in the stratosphere. The average thickness of the ozone layer is about 2.9 millimeters. Ozone is a form of oxygen. An ozone molecule consists of three oxygen atoms. An ordinary oxygen molecule has two oxygen atoms. Most ozone is formed in the uppermost atmosphere. When the sun's high energy rays strike the ordinary oxygen molecules, they break up and form O3 ozone. The thickness of the ozone layer is measured in Dobson unit, children, that is du. 1 du is equal to 0.01 millimeters thick compressed ozone gas around the earth at 0 degrees Celsius at an atmospheric pressure of 760 millimeters of the mercury column. Children, the vertical column thickness of the ozone layer, about 220 Dobson unit, is considered normal. If the thickness of the ozone layer in the stratosphere falls below 220 Dobson unit, children, then it is termed as a ozone hole. If it is 200, yeah, there is an ozone hole created in the ozone. Children, observe this pic and you can see the different colors, that is blue, purple, yellow and red. Is it clear? The ozone hole over Antarctic region can be clearly seen. The blue and purple areas have ozone less than 220 Dobson unit. Means a ozone hole is created in those areas, blue and purple areas. Whereas red and yellow areas have high level of ozone. It means it has more than 220 Dobson unit. Children, what will happen if you don't control this chlorofluorocarbons in the future? To know that, watch this video. Children, we have already learned that ozone layer absorbs the harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun. You're all familiar with. and thus protect life on the earth. The concentration of ozone in the atmosphere varies. How does it vary from place to place? According to the weather, altitude and latitude, children. The depletion of ozone layer can allow more ultraviolet rays to reach the Earth's surface. This causes serious damage to different forms of life in the biosphere. Now let's see, children, how is this ozone depletion is caused in the atmosphere. The ozone molecules in the upper atmosphere absorb most of the sun's harmful ultraviolet rays before they reach the earth. These rays can cause skin cancers and other health problems. You can clearly see, children, and a group of gases called chlorofluorocarbons are posing a threat to the ozone layer. Chlorofluorocarbons are chemical compounds made up of atoms of chlorine, fluorine and carbon. CFCs are used in refrigerators and plastic form of insulation. Because they are gases, children, the CFCs can escape from the poly-sealed containers into the atmosphere. Once the CFCs are in the upper atmosphere, scientists believe that a chain of reactions occur and destroy the ozone layer. Children, first high energy UV rays break chlorine atoms free from the CFC's molecules. These free chlorine atoms can react with another molecule in the atmosphere. Chlorine atom reacts with an ozone molecule. It steals one of the ozone molecule from the three oxygen atoms, forming a molecule of chlorine monoxide molecule. The remaining two oxygen atoms form an ordinary oxygen molecule. In this way, ozone molecule is destroyed. Chlorine monoxide reacts easily with single oxygen atoms in the atmosphere, leaving a free chlorine atom that can be destroyed more ozone. Scientists estimate that one chlorine atom can destroy as many as 100,000 ozone molecules. Children, the main pollutants responsible for the depletion of the ozone layer are chlorofluorocarbons, which I've already discussed, and these chlorofluorocarbons are used as coolants in refrigerator, air conditioners, fire extinguishing equipments, foam insulations, and aerosol propellants. Aerosol propellants means deodorants or sprays which we use for insecticides, etc. They are also produced by jet engines, motor vehicles, and industrial activities, children. The other pollutants are nitrogen oxide from fertilizers and hydrocarbons from fossil fuels. Children, on 16 September 1987, 34 industrialized nations signed the Montreal Protocol. This protocol aimed to phase out the use of ozone depleting substances and to find or develop non-toxic substances, and this was enforced on 1st January 1989. What can we do to protect the ozone layer, children? First thing is encourage to grow more plants that produce oxygen and discourage deforestation and go for afforestation. Next one is minimizing of high altitude aircrafts and rockets. Eliminate the production of products that release gases such as CFCs, etc. Children, make sure the old refrigerators and air conditioners are safely disposed by giving them to recycling yard. The technicians must ensure that while repairing refrigerators and air conditioners, they recover and recycle the ozone depleting substances, and these ozone depleting substances should not be released into the atmosphere, children. When repairing or renovating your house, children, make sure that the old insulation foams containing ozone depleting substances are disposed properly. It's some positive news to know, children. The ozone layer healed itself. Please watch this video for more information.